Hey, we're breaking down a new track of mine today. It's called Greater Silences, and it's going to be, depending on when you are watching this video, on a forthcoming album that's being released by Xyle Records, or maybe it's already out if you're watching this video later. It's the last track I made for the album, and it's also the last track on the album, so it's sort of a culmination of everything I was kind of working on with the album, I think, and I'm super proud of it. So I think we'll listen to it together and then I'll break it down element by element, talk about the creation of the track and any other fun goodies that we might encounter along the way. So here it is. So there's actually quite a lot going on in this track. There's quite a few layers, and there are a number of routing things that are going on for the mix as well. Let's start at the bottom. Or I guess maybe we'll start in the order of things appearing. So there's this sort of cloudy grain ambience thing happening at the very beginning. That's a combination of a few different layers, starting with these grain guitar high and grain guitar low tracks here. Let's mute everything first. So we've got these two. They are panned pretty hard left and right, and they're all going to this grain bus here, which is really just a way. Yeah, there's no processing on the bus. It's primarily just, you can see I've got a little bit of volume automation here that brings the bus down a little bit and then back up toward the end. So let's listen to those two. So those are the first two sounds you hear. So there's the high, and there's the low. I believe that is the backlangs. And you can sort of hear where the sample repeats, kind of loops there. It's not a perfect loop. So I think I recorded this in the Digitact. So there's quite a bit of pitch modulation happening, pretty low clock on the backlings, which gives it that nice kind of lo-fi character, and maybe like 2 notes, I think, for both tracks, that are then looped within the backlings. They may have been looped in the backlings. They might just be looped in the Digitact. I can't remember really. Then we've also got this thing that I called Star Bar. Why did I call it that? I can't remember exactly, other than, oh, well, I guess it's probably, let's see, let's listen to it. Oh, it's in another bus here. Sorry. Should probably unmute all these buses. So this is going to something called bed bus, which is also what the wide drone is going to. So let's see what this is. So I believe this is a layer that I recorded. This is a long time ago. I made this for another album that didn't end up happening. But this was from a time where I had a little Eurorack skiff that I was borrowing. So this is R bar, and I guess maybe that is meant to be like stereo R bar. I don't remember why I called it Star Bar, other than there was a venue in Atlanta that my old band used to play a number of times back in the day, called the Star Bar. So I think maybe I just made that as a little joke to myself. But it's pretty minimal. It's got a nice little like crunchy quality to it. It didn't roll off any highs. Oh, that's not true. I rolled them off here. Just a little bit. So there's a lot of that noisy kind of energy going on there, which I think gives the whole track a little bit more life to it. So that was combined with these grain sounds. This kind of sets, it's a mood setting. Then we've got wide drone here. Not exactly a drone. I do not know what this is. It sounds like a short loop in the Digitact, though, that has got a rhythmic quality to it. But it is not. You can see the BPM counter here. It's not in time with the rest of the track at all. So that kind of comes in right as the bass and the kick drum start to come in. And then we've also got this final, more droney element here that is going to the bed bus, the Coco, the stereo Coco. So you get quite a few of the little clicky pops from the Coco. And I believe I recorded this at the same time as the Starbar track. But both of these tracks actually were used in a completely different context before, and I brought them in to finish the last few. These unused tracks that I had ended up being kind of the saving grace for this album. I ended up using them when I felt kind of stuck and needed some inspiration. I'd kind of go back and see if I could recontextualize some of these sounds. So that's what these are. I mean, I really like the way they played off with these grains. It's a nice little bed. And then we've got the bass and the kick drum that comes in. Not really sure why I had that loudness plug-in on the kick, but the bass is getting side-chained to the kick here. You can see it side-chaining to the kick, so. Just a 4-to-1 ratio. It's only getting, a couple of dB, 2 to 3 dB of compression. Just enough to give it a little bit of that movement. The kick drum is pretty heavily EQ'd. You can see I got a lot of the mids carved out. A little bit of bump at the fundamental frequency here, and then everything else is rolled off pretty high. And you can hear in the kick there is some artifacting up here on the high registers that I reduced quite a bit. Let's see if I turn it off. Yeah. You can still hear it. And I like that sound, but it was just a little too prominent within the track. So that's kind of the foundation. So yeah, we've got these 3 stereo kind of drone elements as our bed. They're going to this bed bus here that is getting some compression. Let's see. So not a whole lot of compression happening, but just kind of gluing it together a little bit. So that's our bed that runs. You can see it runs throughout pretty much the whole song, with the grains trailing off a little bit earlier. These entrances and the fades are all really specifically timed. Spend a lot of time figuring out when exactly I want these elements to come in, and when they need to exit the track. Hopefully it comes across as being, giving it some dynamics, some chance for different elements to kind of shine through. And of course, as anybody who's seen any of these track breakdowns might remember, I often have something like the tremolator on these tracks to give a little bit of volume automation. So it's really slow, 8 bars here with pretty minimal depth, so just so that it isn't a static volume the whole time. This has also got the same amount in 8 bars, but I believe they are, they come in and out at the same time. So they're kind of working together there. And the drones also have some tremolator on there every 5 bars, but then they're also, I'm using this stereo trim control by Goodhertz to adjust it's essentially panning. So I've got the stereo phase at 180 degrees, and so the rate's pretty low. Depth is a little shallow, so it's just slightly shifting the energy from left to right to give it a little bit of stereo movement. And I believe I have that on for all of the tracks, yeah. So those are the ambient bed elements. Let's get over to some melody here. The melody is courtesy of the Digitone. I believe this is maybe one of the only tracks on my new album that I use the new Digitone, the Digitone 2. I got it shortly before I wrapped up all of the recording for the album. So it really helped out with this track. You can hear the melody with a little bit of delay from the BIM, the Oto BIM. And I recorded it separately just because it needed to be so, I wanted to make sure I could tweak it really nicely. And you can see I've got some volume automation happening here as well within the delay to kind of have it peek through at different times. So I wanted to make sure that was, you could hear that feedback. So it's a pretty noisy patch. All right, that's why I have that on there, because I'm using the loudness plugin to do volume automation. That way I can keep all the faders free so that I can, make overall global volume adjustments. I think I did that for the kick as well. That's why I had this on here, because you can see that's where the volume automation is happening. Anyway, back to the melody here. It's a pretty simple patch. There's quite a bit of noise, unstable volume automation. It's pretty trebly. I don't have any EQ on it. But Digitone counter melody is a different patch, slower attack. It sounds like this. I've got a pretty decent amount of compression from this API channel strip going on there. You can see it. Spent quite a bit of time figuring out the timing of this melody, how much spacing I needed for the track to breathe properly, so that I wanted, the melody to kind of be fading out here so that your ear would be drawn a little bit more to the ambience going on down here. And then as that kind of settles down, the melody comes back in, and you can see that the timing in between these two, it's really just a 2-chord melody, but the timing is a little bit off. You've got this pretty rigid 4 on the floor kind of thing happening with the kick and the bass. The bass is pretty consistent, but it's playing off of that melody so that it is a little bit more unpredictable, I guess, which I like. So it's a very rhythmic track, but it's not necessarily predictable in the same way that a typical 4 on the floor kind of 8-bar groove thing would be. So those are the melodic elements. Then we get to the guitars, which I did something kind of cool with the guitars that I haven't actually done before, I don't think. They come in about halfway through the song. Delay and reverb from the Odo Bim and Bam. You can hear there's quite a bit of random pitch modulation coming in on the guitar here, and that would be from the Platask Falma. But I like the way it sounds. I don't often record each guitar track that heavily with the pitch mod, but I don't know, it works really nicely here. And again, this is syncopated against the rhythm, so I like the way it plays off the kick drum and everything here. Let's unmute that so you can hear it. This is a thing that I do pretty regularly in my tracks, especially the ones that are a little more rhythmic, is I kind of build the rhythmic complexity up as the track progresses. And I don't know, it's just something that I find really satisfying. The one thing that I did a little bit differently with the guitars here is that I actually doubled them with this. Did you see this as DN is Digitone Guitar Double? So that's just what it sounds like. So again, a pretty simple Digitone patch, purposefully made to be a little bit more chimey, more like bells, I guess. We get a little bit more high end so that it fits in with the guitar. And then I also have, like, this guitar is panned mostly to the right, and so the related guitar, let's see. Yeah, so the double is panned all the way to the opposite side. Just to give it a little bit of width here. So without the double, with it. Let's see, in the track, it's not super noticeable, but I think you notice it when it's gone. Yeah, for sure. I think I want to say in the guitar, yeah, so this, you can see Q2 is my reverb send to the Odo BAM. So you can see that I had, you know, a fair amount of reverb, a fair amount of the guitars going to the reverb, but even more of the double going there. So in the guitar verb that I printed, you can hear it. It's definitely chiming out there. Q1 is the send to the Odo BIM to my delay, and you can see that the reverse is true. There's a lot of guitar going to the delay, but not very much of the double. That sounds really trippy without the dry elements in there. So let's see. That's all going to a guitar bus. The guitar bus, I believe, has, well, let's see. We've got, so my guitar was compressed on the way in with the pedal board. I believe there's more compression on the guitar. Some fast attack compression there. Quite a bit of it. Just to keep the notes even. And then I think I applied even more compression at the bus here. Yeah, you can see it's hitting pretty strongly there, but at a pretty low ratio. Where is it? Oh yeah, 2-to-1. Oh, and also, yes, okay, I also have sketch cassette on here, which is not something I often do, but I did here. So what did I do? Oh, is that where? Maybe that's why it's so pitch modulated, is because I also have some wow and flutter over the whole thing. So if we take off sketch cassette, really big change in the sound. So sketch cassette is taking a lot of the low end out, cleaning up the guitars quite a bit. Definitely have kind of a warm quality here. And that thins it out quite a bit and adds some of that pitch warble and stuff. But in the track, you just don't need all that low end information because there's so many other elements occupying that space. All of these drone and bed elements occupying that space, so it works better, I think, in the mix. So those are the guitars. There's a lot of reverb and delay going on, although, you know, they're backed off pretty strongly in the mix, so they're not totally overwhelming, but they're definitely there. let's see, what else do we have? There is, oh yeah, the rhythmic element. So if it wasn't always, or if it wasn't already, clear that we were messing things up rhythmically, we've got the really straight ahead 4 on the floor kick drum. We've got the digitone melody, which is, rhythmic. And then the guitars come in with a syncopated element. And then we have these digitone rhythm tracks here. So by themselves, they sound, let's see, they're going to their own bus too, I think. Yeah, percussion bus. There's not a whole lot happening as far as processing here. They're very simple, but they're just single notes. But again, it's like a polyrhythmic thing going on. So add that to what else is going on. They're playing off the guitar. It's pretty subtle in the mix. Spent a lot of time on that, making sure that they weren't too loud because they're really far out in the stereo field. I didn't want them to be too disruptive, but they're like opposite the guitars. So if you listen to the guitars with so they're really basically, it's the same rhythm as the guitars, just an eighth note off. I'm nodding my head while I'm playing that for you, so that's how I know I like it. It feels a little bit overwhelming, I think, if you play it all together, but that's why it's so important, to have these things kind of come in gradually. This kind of creeps in, and you don't necessarily even notice that it's there if you're not listening out for it. But it provides quite a bit of joy for me. Okay, and then we've got a couple more, like, I don't know, extraneous things happening here. So there's this one track that's called Fake Side Chain. That's going to the bed bus here. It sounds like this. Oops, I got that. So that's a Digitact sample that was manipulated. It's called Fake Sidechain because it's got that little bit of a swell thing happening, but it's not super heavy. But in the track, it really is just kind of barely there. So you can hear it if I mute out everything but the beds. So it's just a little bit of, I don't even know if I'd call it ear candy because you can barely hear it. It's like atmosphere change or something. It comes in and then comes right back out. It does that a few times in the track. You can see, and it's at different elements or different times. And it's usually in between. You can see it kind of comes in between these, the hits from the melody. So you can hear when I mute it, but it's not really something that you notice. Then there's this high guitar loop, which I don't even remember what it is. Okay. So another, sounds like a Backlings thing, just a loop that's repeated, a little micro loop. Again, adding to that like high-end energy comes through, partway through, just ratcheting up the sonic energy as it builds up. Let's see, the shimmer stab is more noticeable within the mix. So definitely not a sound that you want to have like constantly there. It's a little bit grating, a little bit jarring. Again, made in the Digitakt. Don't remember what all it is, but it works as a little flourish. Quite a bit of reverb on that to give it space. And that comes in at different points, and you see that it's coming in kind of opposite where these fake sidechain sounds are coming in. So again, just finding those moments in between where the melody is, where the background kind of atmosphere can have a little moment. That was kind of the idea. I spent a lot of time figuring out where do I want these to come in and how, to make things balanced. Let's see. Oh, and then there's only a couple more elements. I think we have this crunch flow, which came in. This one is really almost imperceptible, I think. This is what it sounds like. So again, another micro loop. In the Digitakt, a lot of distortion, I think, on it. Maybe some sample reduction. I really like it. But again, it's kind of low mid presence, and then there's also that aliasing happening that it can't really be in there for a long time. But it really, to me, brings up the energy as, this track has been going on for 3 minutes at this point, and then you've got this new element that comes in instead of the fake sidechain sound. But it's really subtle. You can hear it kind of come in there in your left ear. Mainly the aliasing kind of crunchy part of it is there. And then everything kind of comes in here just at the end for a little bit. As the grain bus is also building back up, so this is kind of like the peak of the whole piece. I was muting these individual elements just because I think it's interesting. There's not necessarily one sound that my ear is drawn to when they're all in the mix, but I definitely can feel a change in energy if I mute one of them. And that's totally what I was going for in the mix, so I'm happy about that. Generally, with this mix, my goal was to try and create something that was a little bit more... Dynamic's not the word. I wanted something that sounded a little more hi-fi. I mean, it's definitely not hi-fi. But I was really trying to pay attention to the upper frequency spectrum. So I've got this adapter AB, metric AB plugin here that's just a monitoring thing. But it really is a super helpful plugin to just give you good information feedback so that you can make better mix choices. But you can see this area here is kind of like 1,000 to 5,000 kilohertz area. There's quite a bit going on there. And then up above that, there's a big drop, but it's definitely there. A lot of my music, if you were to take a frequency analyzer to them, you'd see that this kind of rolls off a little bit more steeply there. But I really wanted to try to get some of that high energy in the track, and I feel like it worked, which I'm really happy about. While we're down here, you can see the percussion bus is automated. Pretty, it's only going, what is that, 8? Yeah, so it's being automated to kind of go with when the extra little ear candy things are happening. They kind of fall back into the background a little bit or come back up just to give it a little bit more movement. And then at the very end, as things are kind of dying away, the guitars are coming out, the drones start to settle in, and then this one last sound emerges, this reverse guitar outro, which will be probably a familiar sound to anybody who likes my music. So it's a reversed guitar loop going through the Chase Bliss Thermae. It's a little bit of feedback, but it's fully wet. So you're getting, the character of the Thermae delay sound, which I really love. And it's automated pretty precisely so that it comes in at just the right time as all this stuff is dying away. It kind of appears here at the end. You can see I'm automating the digitone delay sound to bring it up so it's a little more present. You don't necessarily hear it as like getting louder, but it's a little more present in the mix as the atmosphere is starting to die away. You can see that I left this crunch flow track to fade out just a little bit later because I liked that you could kind of hear it a little bit more here at the very end, give it its own little time to shine. But yeah, it kind of ends on this element, this melodic element that wasn't there at any other point in the song. I think I maybe tried to bring it in at other points, but it didn't really work. But I like to do that sometimes, to just have this kind of new thing that kind of comes in at the end, and it's just, oh, hey, it just becomes a new thing just at the very end and right before it's over, and then it's gone. I like that for some reason. It feels poignant. And at the point that I made this track, I was pretty sure that I wanted it to be the final track of the album. So I was pretty conscious of how it needed to end, the feeling that I wanted the track to have when it was over, being kind of, this is not just the end of the track, but the end of the album. And I think it works really well for that as well, because it's, I don't know, in some ways I think that's kind of a sound that I go to a lot, that like reverse therme thing. It's a little bit, I don't know if it's a signature sound or not. It's not like it's all that unique, I guess, but it feels like me in some way. So I like that that's kind of the thing that we end on, especially considering this track is a little bit more like with the kick drum than I've done in the past. I think the track was informed a lot by the work that I did with Boris on the Whisperglyphs collaboration album that we did. And really like the way that he incorporates these rhythmic elements with the more asynchronous things. So I was definitely thinking about that as I put the track together. So I wanted there to be some kind of thing that still felt like, yeah, this is definitely still a lifted index track. You get that with the guitar, and then this reverse thing at the end. But yeah, I think that's all of the elements. I'm super proud of this track. It's really satisfying to have an idea in your head for what you want a track to be, and when it's the last track that you need to make for an album, and you feel like, boy, I really just don't know if I have that last missing piece, and I want to make something that fills that slot really nicely. It becomes a little bit of a high wire act, especially when there have been plenty of times, and I've shared with Patreon folks a lot in the past, that sometimes tracks turn on me and they never become the thing that I thought they were going to be at first, and I have to really pay attention to what it seems like it's trying to become. So when a track from start to finish stays what I think it's going to be, it feels pretty good. It makes me feel in control, which I like. Sometimes it's good to be out of control and kind of follow the lead of something else, but man, when it all comes together and fits the way you think it's going to fit and works the way you think it's going to work, it's super cool and satisfying. And this one actually, for as many elements as there are in the song, it came together pretty quickly, which is definitely not the case all the time. So I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of the album that it's on. The album is called Agonist, and I think it's maybe cliche to say, but I think it's some of the best work that I've done yet, and I hope you all go out and listen to it. Definitely check this song out. It's on all the streaming platforms right now. You can listen to it, and thanks for walking through this track breakdown with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.